This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. And welcome to my breakdown for the trailer to the final season of The Bad Batch. If you have not watched this trailer yet, I'll try and put the link in the description, but also I posted it already on the community tab. I would watch it first because there's an awesome moment in it. You know, when you're watching it, it's just really surprising, especially if you have read other canon materials. So I would go and check that out and then come back to this. I think it's only like 2 or 3 minutes long. But let's go straight into this.
Hold on! We've got troopers up top.
We begin with a hijacked Juggernaut tank being taken by the Bad Batch, and it sounds like pretty cool to see this. They're still using, obviously, Clone Wars technology. And this moment was pretty interesting to see. Honestly, I think that it's going to be interesting to see what this is for. But it looks pretty cool, even though it's out of context, and it has some even cooler shots later on.
We're running out of road!
Not exactly.
And we then get to see a little more from it. We see, I don't really remember her name, but she's coming to help the Bad Batch. And it's just really interesting ship. It looks like it's a combination between the Lambda class shuttle and kind of like it kind of looks like the front of the Ghost, but a little more elongated. And it's just really weird. It's a interesting looking ship, but I don't know. It just looks like a really weird combined ship. If you look at it, I feel like you could probably see it once I noticed it.
A stealth exit, boys.
Let's move!
And then to get to see for this that at least some people's fears are not going to be true for Echo leaving the Bad Batch again. It seems he'll be working with his brothers, and you can see it since, you know, you see 3 clones here, and since Tech is dead, and Crosshair is in prison, and they're all in their darker armor, that it's the 3 of them. Yeah, honestly, it's going to be interesting to see them together, and I think Rex may join them for a good amount of the season because he is going to be in this trailer a bunch, or it could just be a bunch from like one episode he appears in. But it'd be interesting to see if he is a little more prominent this season and is like an unofficial member of it to have it back to being 4 members. But we'll see.
I thought that the end of the war would mean an end to losing more of our brothers.
And speaking of Rex, we get our first scene with him where he's talking about how he thought the end of the Clone Wars would mean there'd be less lives of clones lost. We get a few cool things, like looking at this Republic attack shuttle. I can't remember its official name, but that's the that's one of the things it's called. It's crashed in the surface of a planet. This would most likely be the one we see Omega trying to escape in later in the trailer. But we also get to see that they'll be going back to Teth, which we haven't really seen since I believe it was season 3 of the Clone Wars. And it's gonna be interesting to see that. But yeah, honestly, this looks pretty cool, and let's move on to the next scene.
I was wrong. We can't just walk away. Not with the Empire imprisoning the kid.
We then seemingly get a second fear put to rest, and that is one that I shared in, unlike the first one. I was sure that we'd be seeing Echo return, but it seems that they're officially saying that Tech is dead, and they're not going to be bringing him back for whatever reason. And I'm glad of that because it needs to have stakes for the story. And yeah, honestly, I think that it is pretty interesting to see that. We also see a little more of different places, and eventually into Mount Tantus, where Omega sees Crosshair, and it's really interesting that with really everyone besides, at least from the clones, besides Rex and Echo, it looks like they're all kind of depressed. They look a little more beaten up and everything, and that's honestly pretty interesting. You'll see a little more when I get better still shots of them later on, but I just wanted to mention it now.
Secure her in a cell. Omega's been waiting for us a long time.
And then you get to see a little bit of Omega being imprisoned and them starting to plan her rescue. This was obviously where the season was going to go, so they're just, making it clear because that's what a trailer does. But we expected this, and I'm honestly really excited to see what they do with it, so let's move on to the next scene.
Our mission is not over yet.
There is nothing of greater importance.
We then get this really awesome scene of Palpatine arriving at Mount Tantus. We see him surrounded by Imperial commandos, and he has two Red Guards. Nalase is there alongside, I believe, is Dr. Hemlock. And, of course, he's voiced by Ian McDiarmid. It is done really well, and it's just really cool to see him here. It's probably going to be trying to set up stuff for the future, possibly for the Mandalorian movie, but most likely also for long-term plans of Palpatine being cloned in Rise of Skywalker. Although that is going to be a little disappointing, it will hopefully also tie into the movie that will be sort of adapting the Thrawn trilogy by Dave Filoni. So yeah, honestly, I think that it will be pretty interesting to see, and let's move on to the next scene.
To secure the future of this empire.
We then see this really interesting armored character. I think this is another one of those clones that we saw last season that was seemingly had everything identifiable removed. It is most likely fully brainwashed by the Empire. It looks pretty interesting, and it's a really cool armor. And I would love to see this done in probably both Lego and see what they do for the Black Series, and just hope it's not as bad as that one Shin figure I saw, because that looked awful. But hopefully it does look cool, because this looks like just a really cool toy to get, and there's obviously going to be ones made of it. So let's go on to our next scene.
Whatever is needed to accomplish this goal, you will have it.
We then see what looks like the Republic shuttle being shot down that I showed earlier in the trailer. And if you take a look at Wrecker's armor here, it looks very beaten up, very scraped up, and just a lot of like battle damage on it. It usually is in like pretty good condition if you look at it in the other seasons. I think that they just, stopped caring about like maintaining the armor, and they're just going on this mission, and I feel like someone else is going to be dying this season. But yeah, let's move on to our next part of the trailer. Okay, then we just get this awesome scene I'm going to look at quickly, which is a Juggernaut just fully unloading its arsenal. It looks really cool. I don't think we've really seen too many of these in a full-on battle scenario, because they're typically in, more transport roles or kind of in the background. I think this will be the first time we've seen it in a real big like battle situation that is seen on screen. But yeah, this looks really cool, and let's continue.
They are coming.
We then get a bunch of quick shots of characters. I'm going to be stopping at all the interesting ones. So we first have Fennec Shand. And honestly, she looks pretty good here, although the hair does look a little blacky. Maybe it's just like a really like odd shot and it'll look better, but I don't know, it just didn't look great in that shot. We're gonna get a quick and cool look at Cad Bane, and I'm excited to see what he'll be doing this season.
For all of you.
We then get a look at this clone trooper, who I'm assuming is the armored one I mentioned earlier. And that's just because he has a darker armor on, but also he seems pretty similar to the other one that we saw that was kind of like fully brainwashed last season, but we'll see. That's my prediction for that, at least. We then get to see that Wolf is also going to be in the season. It seems like at first he might be with the Empire, but this might be a deceptive shot, so who really knows, because we do know by the end of it, Wolf will be with Rex and they'll wind up on the ATTE, so I'm interested to see what they do with that. We then see Hunter, who just looks extremely thin. I feel like this might be, depression or something from him losing Omega. It does seem like a good amount of time has passed, and just something looks off with him. But what do you think about that specifically? Because I think that's, a small little theory I have that he has some kind of depression or some kind of like PTSD from what happened last season, because he just doesn't look like physically great in this. And I wonder if that's, that's going to be something they're going to go on, because it doesn't really look like anyone else looks like that. And it's just really him. We then get to see Rex. And he looks the same, he just looks off because he doesn't have some of the stuff on under his armor. Like the pauldron and I can't think of what the other thing's name is. But he doesn't have all that on, so it just looks really off for us since we're so used to seeing that on him. And I wonder why they're showing him like this. We then also get to see Echo, who looks like he really hasn't changed. And that just helps towards my theory of both Hunter and Wrecker taking this a lot harder. I don't think we got a really good clear shot of Hunter's armor, at least from what I saw, but I may have looked past it. But Wrecker's just looked really beat up, and it looked like Hunter's just not doing great physically, so I think that it's having a really big toll on both of them. But I want to know what you, again, think about that specifically, so let me know about that in the comments. The final one we get to see is Omega in what looks like the Republic attack shuttle. And so we clearly her trying to escape from Mount Tantus, that will ultimately lead in her failure and recapture. So it means it'll be a little earlier in the season, and she might be able to transmit something to the Bad Batch so they can help track her down and eventually get to her. But they're definitely going to need a lot of resources, and who knows, I feel like we might see the Clone Rebellion that a lot of people have been hoping to see, and I feel like it would be really awesome to see that.
Give us a real challenge.
We then get a good look at Wrecker with his helmet off, and again, he doesn't look really that messed up, so I think that, again, this is just going to be something that happens to Hunter. We then get to see Hunter being taken by a space alligator, and I was able to see his arm a little bit by going frame by frame. And yeah, it doesn't look like it's really that messed up or anything. But yeah, honestly, I think it's pretty interesting to just think about that. Yeah, it's just one of my theories after being able to look at this kind of frame by frame and be able to see something a little more clearly, that Hunter is definitely having some kind of problems. And I am interested to see what they are.
Everyone down!
We're not big on following orders.
And then we get to see what looks like the Bad Batch being surrounded by other clones and them being told to surrender, and Hunter telling him that they're not good at following orders. And looking at him here, we see him in his armor, and it seems that it's really clear there's just this gap between his skin and his armor, and it's just a really interesting thing. I keep noticing it. Just when you look at it closely, I think there's definitely something going up with Hunter this season, and losing Omega has definitely done something to mess with him. But let's start heading towards the end of the trailer. We then get to see what looks like Omega trying to escape from Mount Tantus, and this is before she is shot down and crashes. But I also have to pause here because the next scene of this, and the second I stop talking, will be when you get the really big crazy twist. I would rather have you watch the trailer fully because it's a great and surprising moment there. But this is your final warning, and that scene will be playing in 3, 2, 1, now.
I wasn't planning on killing you, but you're making it very tempting.
We then see the return of Asajj Ventress. This is extremely interesting since up until this trailer dropped, she was dead at this point in the timeline. She dies in the novel Dark Disciple, which is based off of the Clone Wars episodes that never got finished. This is extremely interesting to see, and honestly, I want to know what's happened with Dark Disciple from looking at some stuff. It sounds like they're trying to keep Dark Disciple canon, and her death is somehow going to be undone. She is hit by a very major blast of Force lightning, so at worst, just the ending of that story is undone. If not, this is maybe a clone. Since they're doing the cloning, maybe she was healed by the pool she was placed in on Dathomir. Who really knows, but it's pretty interesting. I want to see what they do to explain this, because although it'll be interesting to see her again on screen, because we haven't seen her since the end of Season 5 of the Clone Wars, where Anakin was questioning her about Ahsoka and everything that happened with the temple bombing. But I'm really interested to see this because this is probably the most interesting scene in the entire trailer, since this is a character we thought was dead and is now alive. Really excited to see that, and hope they have an explanation for how she is alive and it's not just, well, retcon. We'll have to see when the season drops in about a month. But now let's take a look at the end of the trailer. We then end with Ventress charging them, and yeah, I'm really excited to see this season. As I said, they need to have a good explanation for why Ventress is alive, and on the other hand, we also just needed Tech to remain dead. But I really just can't wait to see this. And with Ventress being in this, I do hope we get her looked at Tales of the Jedi, because it looks like they are going to be having a closer look at her, and they'll have her updated the new Clone Wars Tales of the Jedi Bad Batch animation style. So we'll be able to see her in that, and I hope that she is part of the new season and part of Dark Disciple is adapted to it, or just other stuff, because it'll be really interesting. But before we go, I actually did find a quote that is from Lucasfilm officially, and it is, "We do not want to spoil anything, but want fans to know that any new storytelling with Ventress will align with the events of Star Wars Dark Disciple." So it does seem that it is going to remain canon, and that there will be an explanation for it that will be explored either in the Bad Batch or Tales of the Jedi. We will see, so I am interested to see that and want to know what you think. Please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.